I think what's very clear at the end of this debate is that sovereign wealth funds fulfill two purposes in our society. On the first level, they fulfill an economic one. They're supposed to make as much money as they can. And we want to find out which policy best allows them to do that. But they also fulfill a second purpose, a political one, a diplomatic one, as agents on behalf of their government. And that's something that my speaker, Jia Wei here, raised in his speech, but that they never really came to terms to, because we never heard a real response to Jia Wei's point of constructive on their side of the house. So the two questions I'm going to be asking is, how does the policy affect economics? And secondly, how does their policy affect politics? So how does it affect economics? First of all, right from the top of this table, we've heard claims that sovereign wealth funds and disclosure of financial statements aids in creating stability in the market. But we've told you, you don't need transparency with sovereign wealth funds to create such stability in the market. The sovereign wealth fund investing in a major banking corporation like Citigroup, that act of investment itself creates stability in the market because we know that the sovereign wealth fund is putting its money there. We don't need full disclosure to be able to create this stability in the market. But then how does their policy then affect sovereign wealth funds themselves? Now, we suggest to you that it doesn't make sense whatsoever to shine a spotlight, to use the words of the chair, on sovereign wealth funds when they want to operate privately and covertly. Ladies and gentlemen, this just shows the flawed logic of that side of the house. Sovereign wealth funds want their privacy when they invest, and yet you thrust them to center stage under the glare of a spotlight. Do you expect them to invest to the best of their abilities? Of course not, because they're going to be afraid of the public, afraid of what people say of their moves. We say they inhibit sovereign wealth funds and what sovereign wealth funds can do to maximize profits for our country. We say they reduce the incentive to invest on the part of sovereign wealth funds, and that only makes the problem of credit even worse, because sovereign wealth funds aren't going to be putting money out there. Yes, sir.
With or without disclosing a financial state, either way, people are going to know about the investments that sovereign wealth fund makes. Why not disclose the information and increase public confidence?
Sir, if with or without these kinds of disclosures, the public is going to know what the sovereign wealth fund is doing, then why disclose in the first place? Why disclose if that particular act is going to make the sovereign wealth fund uncomfortable? We say if there is enough information out there, and the sovereign wealth fund doesn't want additional disclosure, why not make it easier for them and allow them to invest the best way they can? Now, the second issue in this debate is politics. Now, they've suggested to us that accountability is an important issue in this debate. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the closing opposition would like to suggest to you that accountability is less important than they would make it out to be, because sovereign wealth funds occupy a completely different realm and territory in terms of international relations and politics than does a private business corporation. They are agents of the government, and they do diplomatic work. Because diplomatic work, because of its sensitive nature, and I'm sure the gentleman from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs sitting in the audience would empathize with that, ladies and gentlemen, because of the sensitive nature of this work, then, ladies and gentlemen, they need to be working under the cover of privacy, and we say only in that circumstance can they do their work best. We say accountability is secondary to the privacy required by a sovereign wealth fund. We say, in fact, ladies and gentlemen, that their last speaker on their side of the house came up here and admitted to us that there's press scrutiny on sovereign wealth funds. I ask you, if there's press scrutiny on sovereign wealth funds, why on earth do we need to take out their policy? Because as far as the opposition is concerned, it's therefore going to be a useless and moot policy because the public already gets all they need from the press. We suggest to you that, in fact, the prime concern that needs to be taken into account in this particular debate is what diplomatic good and what diplomatic work sovereign wealth funds can do to be able to further the interests of their nation. And my speaker, Jia Wei, here gave you a list of examples. He talked to you about apartheid, and he talked to you about the Suzhou province, something that was ignored by their side of the house, and hence we believe still stands in this debate. The sovereign wealth fund is able to further Singapore's political interests by bringing our diplomatic relations closer to China. It's able to further Singapore's domestic concerns by buying apartheid gold, even though that would come under close scrutiny and that would come under condemnation from countries like the United States of America. Sovereign wealth funds are agents of the government, and sometimes they have to make decisions that some people might believe to be unpalatable, but they do that in the best interest of their nation. Ladies and gentlemen, we say that if sovereign wealth funds need to act in the best interest of their nation, then they need to be in a position to do so. And the position that they need to be in is not one where people are scrutinizing their decisions, where people are condemning their decisions, and where they don't have the space they require to act as agents of the government. We say, ladies and gentlemen, on both the economic and the political level, it's clear opposition has taken this debate.